Hi. People talk about the Crown Dependencies, the collective noun for the Isle of Man, Jersey and Guernsey. And it sounds like it's a really ancient term, sort of, part of the ancient 1,000-year-old history of the constitutions of these parts of the world. But it isn't, and it's not without its problems. So I have written an article on this, which is available via the link, but I'm just going to quickly summarize my key points here. So when was it first used? I went down a bit of a rabbit hole on this. I've not been able to find it in print anywhere before 1983, when it appeared in a guidebook. It first appeared in policy debates in 1987, and then in 1998, a review of financial services across the three nations used the term in its title. So it's not that ancient at all. As a legal term, it's even younger. The tipping point seems to have been somewhere between 1994 and 1999, probably between 1998 and 1999, at which point the UK government began to use the term when referring to the nations in discussing their position with international bodies. It began to be used by courts in 2001, so only in this century, and in legislation from 2005. It's maybe worth noticing that the use of the term, especially in legislation, but also in the courts, has really accelerated since Brexit. So how is it used? It's mainly used as shorthand. Rather than say Jersey, Guernsey, the Isle of Man every time, or come up with some sort of acronym, you just refer to as the Crown Dependencies, by which you mean something affecting all three of them. But courts within the UK, the Isle of Man, Jersey and Guernsey, have used the term to indicate a shared constitutional position, a shared relationship both with the UK, but also on the international forum. This is the point I'll come back to. It's also been used to look for solutions to legal problems common to the nations. The Isle of Man, Jersey and Guernsey are very similar in many ways, very different in others, but very similar in many ways. And so you sometimes find the courts looking at each other's decisions and reasoning. And this was done most significantly in the Jersey case of Fallows, which I discuss at length in the article. So what are the positives of it being used? As I've said, there's lots of similarities between these three nations. It stresses commonalities of size, international legal status, relationship with the UK, dominant language, and islandness. They're all big things. It's also very convenient, especially from the UK side. Rather than have somebody sat in London becoming a specialist in each of the three nations, you work on the basis that you can see them as the Crown Dependencies, as a single unit. From the island position, it's useful too. In particular, it's useful when negotiating with the UK. If one Crown Dependency is, for instance, given more autonomy in a particular area, it can be the basis for an argument for change, what I describe as a levelling up strategy. The others have got this, why don't we get it? If the position of the three is the same, a collective defence of the status quo can lend more voices and more weight than one island standing alone, what I describe as a ganging up strategy. So it's convenient, it's really useful, it stresses lots of commonalities. So what's the problem? I think there are two risks with having a common term at all, and in fairness, I am very much the outlier on this. Most people have no problems with the idea of a common term. Firstly, an emphasis on commonality risks obscuring crucial differences between them. Let me give one example. The Isle of Man became a possession of the UK by being conquered. The King of the Isle of Man was captured and had his head chopped off by the British. Jersey and Guernsey, on the other hand, as what remains of the Duchy of Normandy, can fairly claim to have become associated with the UK through having conquered it. These lead to very different constitutional consequences. Secondly, it risks making us focus just on these three rather than recognising commonality and the potential for lessons to be learnt from other jurisdictions around the world. An overemphasis on the Crown Dependencies, this special, unique group, can lead us not to really think and learn from other territories, places like the Cayman Islands and Gibraltar, the UK overseas territories. The more common criticism is not that there shouldn't be a common term, but that Crown Dependencies is a bad term to have. If you're a Republican, you're not going to relish the focus on the Crown. But the much more common criticism is of dependency. It suggests a relationship with the UK, which the islands, increasingly autonomous since the 1950s, do not want. The big sticking point to change, I think, is the lack of consensus about what it would be changed to. British Islands? Crown Kingdoms? Crown Realms? Crown Dominions? Dependencies of the Crown? Crown Territories? Freely associated states? All of these have been put forward. None of them is a clear favourite to replace the term. And until we have a realistic contender, the term Crown Dependency is going to continue to be used. For a term that has only really become significant in the last 20 years, it's begun to bed in firmly. And the longer it continues to be used, the more likely it is to remain, no matter how problematic dependency is to some people. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to learn more and all the detail of my argument, please go to the article.